evening, everyone. I hope people who are seeing us on Zoom are able to hear clearly. Uh, this program indeed is very, very special, and the name, as you can see, is very developing a yogic mind. So, though I have sent each one of you a mail, but I would like to set the context. That we all come under stress during our job and also in our personal life whenever we face any problem. So, sir, during one of our conversation during lunchtime, as very beautifully said, right, that by being actually involved in this problem also, and also not get entangled into the problem, how we can see it in a very, very neutral manner, right? So that we can offer best solution and we can give the best advice to actually people. So I think it is very different from any other program. And why, sir? Because the context which you actually asked me to set our mail, many of us basically believe that you are already practicing that. So when people during lunchtime on that day, so they were saying that the intent of the program, which I have mentioned, is beautifully describing yourself. So it will be very good for us because it is not only a talk, right, but we also have a person within us who is successfully demonstrating that. And I think that makes our participation more exciting because we feel that many people come and talk, they themselves are not practicing that. But in your case, sir, you are already example of that. So we all look forward for this teaching session because we seriously feel that it is not only going to help our professional life, but also our personal life. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good evening, friends. I'll start with a small story. There was once a painting competition. Some of you might have heard this from me earlier, but never mind. So there will be a revision for those who have not heard the new story. There was once a painting competition organized by a king. So the whole country was invited to participate. The subject of the painting was peace. The artist is supposed to paint peace. It's a very abstract term, an abstract thing to paint. So a lot of people, as expected, came up with very serene landscapes. Somebody painted Buddha sitting in meditation. A lot of different things came. And there was a team of people who were supposed to judges. They went around I think you're missing it. So the judges went around, thousands of paintings around, they went around. And finally, they selected one. And when the selected painting was put up in front of everybody was perplexed, surprised, alarmed. How can this painting be selected for painting of peace? The painting depicted a jungle scene. There was fire everywhere. There was violence everywhere. One animal killing another animal, people fighting with each other, flood, lightning, cyclone, and everyone was wondering what is this got to do with peace? This is on the contrary, exactly the opposite. So obviously there were questions asked to the judges, and the chief judge came and explained. He said, "Why did we select this painting for representing peace?" Something is wrong. Anyway, this is affecting this mic, right? Are you able to hear me without this mic also? Okay. So is it you are all going by the context. If you pay attention, in the midst of all this is a small tree. On one of the branches of the small tree is a nest. In the nest is a small bird. The bird has got two babies, and the bird is singing away in complete happiness. The true happiness or true peace is that peace. When all around you there's chaos, but you are still peaceful, unaffected by the chaos. Where are you going to find in your life situations or conditions that are not chaotic? Life is always going to have chaos as a part of it. If you can be peaceful out of life, then what is the use? You need to be peaceful in the middle of chaos. And that is real peace. Why did I tell you this story? So when the moment people talk about yoga or meditation or samadhi, etc., people always somehow have an impression this means exiting the world or exiting daily activity or exiting life. There's nothing to do with it. It is finding peace where you are in every single situation, maintaining that mind, that balanced mind in every single situation, because you still got to live life. So this is setting the context. Now, 3 disclaimers. First of all, okay, I'll tell you again a small little story before I make that disclaimer. There was somebody who wanted to learn meditation, whatever, let's say whatever. So there was a renowned teacher. He went to the teacher, said, I've studied so much, I know so much, but I still don't know this part. So can you please teach me this? So the teacher heard him patiently and they said, will you have tea? And the student was again a little confused. I didn't come here for tea. I said, okay, why not? So the teacher got up, went and made a pot of tea, brought 2 cups, made a pot of tea, put the cups on the table, started pouring. Cup was half full, cup filled up, tea started spilling into the saucer on the table. The student looking at the teacher, so what's wrong with him? For a couple of minutes he waited, then he said, sir, he said, what? Tea is spilling. He said, yes, it will spill. Why? Then he stopped. He said, look, now you know that if cup is full, you try pouring anything in it, what happens? You knew it. I'm just showing you that if the cup is full and you try pouring something in it, what happens? I have a lot of intelligent people sitting around me who know a lot, who possibly know a lot more than what I want to talk about. So what I want you all to do is please empty your cup. There is a cupboard there. Please take out all the knowledge that you have relating to today's subject and keep it in safe there. Imagine and keep it in safe custody there. At the end of the talk, you can collect it back from there. If you like anything out of this, retain it. Otherwise, there is a garbage bin there. Drop it in the garbage bin, collect your old knowledge, go back to life. But while you are here, please listen to this as if you do not know nothing. Unless you have a clean slate, unless you have an empty mind, unless you have a belief that I know and I want to learn, you will never learn. Nothing will go inside. It will be a wasted effort. You will be wasting your time. 2 other disclaimers. Whatever I want to tell you is none of my invention. It's something that I learned, something that I have been learning. The only addition that I have to that is that whatever I have learned, when I've tried to adopt it in my life, that's given me some additional learning. So those are the only my additions to the learning. Otherwise, it's all learned knowledge. All of you would possibly have it in life. You all learn in life. But when you practice it, some of it becomes internalized. Some gets established. Your belief, your understanding becomes that much deeper. And unless you practice yourself, whatever you try to teach, it'll only be cursory. It'll only be peripheral. It will never be as deep as you would be able to share what you have experienced, what you practice yourself. So it's nothing. It's not Haritwal technique. It is nothing to do with me. What I've learned and somewhat practice, and I'm sharing with you. The second disclaimer is mind is a subject on which treatises can be written, scriptures can be written. In 1.5 hours, what we're discussing are we're not trying to cover all aspects of mind. We're only trying to cover little bit of it that applies to us. So you might know much more about mind than we want to talk about today. But as I said, please keep that knowledge there for the time being. We are focusing on a point. We will discuss only that much. Let's leave the rest of the knowledge about the mind out. Okay. So sorry for the interruption. Okay, no, go to the first slide. Move this screen down. Move this window down or minimize it. Minimize this window. All realities have at least 3 words. At least 3 words. The way the reality is. Then my version of that reality. Then your version of that reality. And there could be his version, her version. So there can be umpteen number of versions of reality, but at least 3 will always be there. And these versions will always be different from the true reality. Some could be poles apart, some could be very close. Right? Now, there's a picture here. The reality is, it's a rope. Manoj Pandey thinks it's a gold necklace because it's not clear. I think it's a snake. What would be his reaction? Sorry, I don't mean you. Greed, liking. What will Manoj Pandey do? Move towards it. What will be my feeling? Fear, scared. What will I do? Same reality, different feelings, different actions. Completely different. You could all have different versions of this. What is it? And then accordingly, your feeling and your action will be different. This is every day. This is with objects, people, situations. Every day happens to all of us. We don't have 100% true vision of the real situation or real person or real object or real whatever. Then what do we do? So we have a unclear understanding first. Because it's unclear understanding, what do we try to do? Project something on it through imagination. And that's different for each one. And that is where the difference arises. And then based on that projection, we get a feeling, an emotion. And based on that feeling or emotion, we act. And this is a normal process that happens. If you think about it, you will understand that this is what happens every day. And that can be different from different people. Now, if you were very close or you were actually understood the reality, would it be ideal? Would it be the best? Because then there is no distortion, there is no wrong action, there's no wrong feeling. It's exactly what it should be. So the idea behind today's talk is to try and understand realities as they are. If we could have a mind that understands realities as they are, then all this distortion, which creates a lot of burden on the mind, can be out. Our understanding, our analysis, our response could be far more appropriate, far more. Why do we have a blurred vision? Question, obviously, right? That's all the time. Secondly, so, okay, what is common in all this reactions was confusion. That is a blurred vision, but different. Everything else is different, right? Now, the question that arises: why a blurred vision? What are the reasons? What can we do about it? Second is, why are these different projections? Why did he see a necklace and why did I see a snake? Or why do you see something else? Why? There must be a reason behind it. And the last is, if he sees a necklace and if I see a snake, why are our reactions different? Do the reactions always need to be that way? These are some very basic questions, fundamental questions, but somehow we never stop and think about them. Okay, let's think a little bit about them. That's what the talk is about. There is this American psychologist credited with a wing of psychology called positive psychology. He's of Hungarian origin, a little tongue twister of a name, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He has done a lot of research and come to a conclusion that the maximum amount of information that mind can get or mind can handle is 150 bits, which is a tiny piece of information. If you know computers, what is the transfer speed maximum now available? 64 bits. There used to be 32-bit computers earlier, now there's 64-bit computers. And now they're working on 128-bit computer where transfer of information can happen at that speed. So computers are going to soon reach close to where mind is. Mind can handle only 150 bits at a time. This is what his research shows. Now, when you receive information, if all 150 bits are on it, then you will get it as it is. But invariably, not even 50 bits are involved. 100 bits are somewhere else. The mind, 100 bits are somewhere else. Not even 50 bits is what we focus on, what we do. If you researchers, students are studying, you see them sitting like this. They're trying to focus all 150 bits on what is in front of them. So if we can learn to focus all 150 bits, or at least as close there to that, this is a very interesting research is published. Whenever you should ever get a chance, do read it. It's very interesting. So the basic cause of blurred vision is those 150 bits are never focused. They're always all over. Number one. Why ornament and why a snake? Vivekananda puts it very well. He says all of us are pre-programmed. Now there's two parts of the mind. There's a conscious mind, as the Western philosophy calls it, and there's a subconscious, unconscious, whatever you call it mind. The subconscious mind is pre-programmed. Vivekananda says that whatever subconscious mind has got recordings of all your past. And imagine that that recording is in the form of, you've seen those LP records? Tracks of the LP record. They are like the tracks of the LP record, the impressions of your past, this life, hundreds of lives, millions of lives. If you believe in previous lives, then all that data is there in your subconscious. Accessible, not accessible is a different issue. So you have those tracks already pre-recorded. Whenever an input comes in, mind tends to go on its favorite track. The subconscious mind tends to go on its favorite track. And those tracks keep becoming deeper and deeper because the mind is going again and again on it. So all the more reason the mind goes, the needle goes exactly on that track, goes deeper. And this is what modern science calls tendency, trait, whatever, that you have a tendency of thinking in a certain way. Because those tracks have become deeper. The mind tends to go on that. What is required is conscious effort to move away from that. Do not go on that track. In our colloquial language also, we sometimes say, oh, galat track pe chala gaya. Mind goes on a track which is not a relevant track, but it goes on a track and we say, galat track pe chala gaya. That's what Vivekananda is meaning, that mind tends to go on its own favorite track, which may not be the appropriate track. So you need to learn consciously to move the mind away from a standard track that tries to go on. So I'm just giving you some abstract information in the beginning, and we'll do a systematic analysis of it. Some people also call it colored spectacles, that we all have colored spectacles. I look at the world in a certain way, he looks at the world in another way, he looks at the world in another way, she looks at the world in another way. And everything that we see, we try to apply that color to it first. And that is subconsciously, without any conscious effort, automatically it happens. That's why my world is different color, his world is different color, his world is different color. Everything in the world is different color. And those colors keep changing from time to time. But there's a whole color scheme in our mind, and we apply that color scheme only. His color scheme is different, my color scheme is different. There's one more complication that comes into this. Whatever I see get absorbed, I add an I to it. My version. And my version is, मेरा version सबसे, my version is the most dear to me. His version may be right, but comes second. That is another complication that gets added to the whole thing. And of course, we saw involvement of emotions and hopes and wishes, etc. In his case, greed, in my case, fear, etc., etc. These are things that complicate things. The ideal situation is if we can be as close to the reality as possible, then everything is fine because we understand it perfectly well and we respond accordingly. Nothing, no confusion, no problems, nothing. And this applies to personal life, business life, all types of life that you can talk about. So this is very basic, so it applies to everything. So it has relevance for all. So coming to the topic. So this was the background. Now let's come to the topic as to what do we do? How do we understand this and what do we do? All distortions are inside. As we saw, reality is real. Reality is only one, that it is a rope. All distortions are in the mind. I may think it is a ornament, I may think it's a snake, I may think it's a piece of pipe, I may think of whatever. Reality has not changed. Reality is still the same. Reality is a rope. All distortions are in the mind. And when you look at classical theory of yoga, that's why I'm coming to yoga, it says distortions can be classified into two for understanding clearly. Let's take the example of a pond and something lying at the bottom of the pond. There's water in between, there's water as a medium. There are two things that can cause our view of the bottom of the pond to get distorted. One is ripples. Ripples in the water will distort the image of the thing at the bottom. And second is impurity in the water. If water is dirty, water is colored, water is whatever, your view of the bottom will be different. So broadly speaking, there are two aspects that change our perception of the reality. Either disturbances of the mind. Now look at the pond as a mind. So disturbances of mind or impurity of the mind. Impurity of the mind, removing that is a subject of religion, spirituality, etc., etc. We will not get into that today. That's not our subject today. So making your mind purer has got a lot of other aspects. We will focus on the ripples, the disturbances that arise in the mind. And you solve that problem, half the problem is solved. Not 100%, but half the problem is solved. You still need purity of mind, which requires a lot of do's and don'ts of life. So, if yogic mind is the answer, we need to understand what is yogic and what is mind, and then understand what is yogic mind. Now, when it comes to yoga, there are 3 or 4 authorities that all of us accept. Patanjali is the original authority. The Patanjali Yoga Sutra is the original scripture that defines what yoga is and describes in detail what it is. The practitioners, original practitioner that people relate to is Shiva. He's always been sitting in meditation, deeply in trance. The original yoga, yogic or yoga practitioner is Shiva. Krishna is known as Yogeshwar Krishna. He also was a very great yogi because his mind was always knew exactly what to do. Never distorted. Buddha is known to be again a great practitioner of meditation, and through that he got his nirvana. So these are popularly known. We will focus on the teachings of Patanjali, who is the original teacher of yoga. I'll possibly refer to Krishna once in a while, but we'll understand what mind is. We'll understand what yoga is for Patanjali. We'll understand what mind is, and then of course combining them becomes yogic mind. So let's first look at yoga as per Patanjali. Patanjali says in one single phrase the entire meaning of yoga. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha, which means, translated, it means yoga is restraining the mind stuff from taking various forms. Vritti is various forms. Chitta is mind stuff. Now, this mind is composed of 2 things: the mind as such and the thoughts that it generates. So, vrittis are the thoughts, and mind is the mind. And if you do this, that is, if you restrain the thought of the mind, what happens? Then the seer, we need to see why seer and why not the person, rests in his own state. So there's a natural state which is distorted by the mind vrittis. If you restrain the vrittis, you are back in your natural state. Being in natural state is yoga. Yoga word means joining you to your natural state. Which spiritual side meaning is completely different. But for our purpose, joining, so bringing you back to your natural state, natural, balanced, and undisturbed state. So chitta is mind stuff, vritti is thought waves, nirodha is restraining, not destroying, not stopping, not doing away with it. As I said, seer. Drishtu is seer. Swarupa is on natural state, going back to on natural state. So it's very simple. The entire yoga that we talk about is simply restraining your thought so that you can go back to your natural state. The whole treatise is based on this simple principle. Looking first at the mind, so yoga is very simple now. What is supposed to be done is thoughts need to be restrained so that we can come back to natural state. Now, natural state of the mind. Now, how many people believe mind is the same as brain? What is brain and what is mind? Is mind made of matter? Is it something that you can pinpoint or take out and put on a table and study it? No. Is it brain? Okay, mind. Where is mind located? Where is it? Is it my head? Is it my heart? Is it somewhere in my body? Where is it in my body? Is it? Okay. So mind is a very strange animal. It's very strange. It's definitely different than the brain. Mind is made of matter. It is subtle matter, not gross matter. That's all. Gross matter you can. What is the difference in subtle matter and gross matter? Gross matter is what you can perceive with your five senses. Subtle matter is beyond that. But it's still material. Why is mind material? Can you manipulate mind with material input? You can. By medication, you can change your mental state. If it is not material, material will not affect it, will not impact it. So mind is matter, but subtle matter. There is in your gross body that we can see, feel, touch. There is a subtle body in it. As Dr. Malik pointed out, it's a body inside, which is various layers in your body, various layers till the core. So the second layer is third layer is mind. So it's a subtle body, it's a subtle mind, subtle you can say body inside, which uses various parts of your. It works on your body, it works on your mind, brain, it works on your heart, it works on everything, and you will see how it works on your breath. We'll see how. It's constantly transforming. It's never stable. It's always changing. It's always constantly changing. Conscious, subconscious, talked about a little while back. Mind is the problem, and mind is the solution. Problem is, as we saw, mind. It's the distortions of the mind that takes the problem. But how do you solve it? Using what? Do I solve it using my hand? Do I use it solving my body? You have to solve it using the mind itself. So the mind itself is the problem, mind itself is the solution. So you have to work on the mind itself to solve its own problem. Now, mind, as we understand mind, we use the word mind very loosely, but mind itself has four aspects. So what is actually mind? In Patanjali Yoga Sutra, for example, mind is called as antahkaran, which is internal instrument. So you have external instruments like hands, legs, eyes, tongue, etc. You have internal instrument, which is mind. So it's called antahkaran. It's an instrument which is within you, and it has four parts. First is what is actually mind. What is in Sanskrit called manas or man, as in Hindi or in colloquial language called man. That's manas. That is mind. Then we have buddhi or intellect. Then we have memory, or sometimes called chitta, sometimes called smriti, memory. And we have ego, which is, ego here is not in the sense of vanity or I am superior, he is inferior. Ego here is sense of individuality. I am different, somebody others are different. I am separate from the world. I am separate from everything else. Sense of identity, sense of individuality. That is ego. Not ego means in social sense that I am egoist or I consider myself superior. Not in that sense. Here, ego means sense of separation. That I am different. I am individual. I am an individual. This is my identity. So it is composed of these four aspects. It's not that mind is divided into four. It has all these aspects, all these functions. And sorry, it's hungry. Okay. So that same mind does various things. Let's look at the entire mental process. How does it work? There's first an input or an impetus that comes in. Now it comes in from 6 sources. There are 5 sensory organs that we have. We all familiar with the 5 sensory organs. And the 6th is the mind itself. It keeps generating its own impetus. And using that, it start jumping. So first the input of the impetus comes in. Then when input or impetus comes through any of the organs are inert. They have no let's say sentiency of their own. It's the mind's attachment to that provides the sentiency. For example, I may look at him, but I may not see him. So my organ is looking at him, but I'm not seeing it because my mind is not attached to my organ. If mind is not attached, my mind is not here, I will look at him but not see him. So the organ is still working, but the mind is not attached, I'm not seeing him. So attachment of the mind to organ is when the input comes in. Till that input is not coming in, input is waiting to come in. So mind receives the input. Then the first thing that happens is it gets compared by memory to past information. Based on that information, it is recognized or not recognized. When it is recognized, intellect comes in and evaluates it. After intellect evaluates it, mind again comes in and then starts jumping all over. Oh, good, bad, no, happy, not happy, like, don't, I like it, I don't like it. Mind again starts jumping all over. But based on the evaluation, mind can only jump around. It can never decide anything. So it is oscillating. It is non-determinative. It can never decide anything. What to do? Again, intellect has to come in and decide what not. Yes, no. Intellect is the determinative part. Based on that, then mind triggers an action. Right? So all these are inquiries. While all this is going on, memory is recording the whole thing. Starting from input coming in through the process in the mind and to action. Everything memory is continuously still recording. So all this is going on in the record. Memory keeps constantly recording. It's like a CCTV. Keeps recording all the time. So memory keeps recording, and that's how it keeps then compares the input from coming. So the memory keeps recording it all the time. Now, so this is how the mind functions. Now let's look at different situations. So some facts about what we just saw. The distinct roles, but carried out by the same mind. It's doing taking input, analyzing, recognizing, evaluating, jumping around, deciding. We call them differently when the function is being done differently. Many of these activities can be done simultaneously by the mind. The speed is unimaginable. The speed, it's a split second, you can reach that end, and you already acted. It's oscillating in nature, is non-determinative. Mind, not the whole mind, the mind. So I'm going to distinguish between the whole mind and the mind by, when I say mind, means that jumping mind. When I say whole mind, means all put together, all 4 of them put together. The mind is oscillating in nature, it can never decide, it can never determine anything. Memory is all memory. That is what is available to you consciously, what is deeper and it's available sometimes, and what is on the cloud, which is not available to you for access, but it is there, subconscious, it is there, and it is huge. Because all your previous life or this life impressions, which are not otherwise accessible, are there. So it includes RAM, the hard disk, as well as the cloud. The role of the intellect is the role which is clear. It is analysis, understanding, and then formulating the response. Mind can, let's say, control the intellect if not controlled. Now, in this, where is the problem? problem is the mind as such. We'll come to that situation. But if mind overpowers intellect, then you have one situation. If intellect overpowers mind, you have another situation. So mind can overpower intellect, but then mind can be controlled by intellect. So it's a very let's say difficult situation, which is it now depends on what are you able to do. Are you able to do something, or are you able to are you allowing the mind to rule? If the mind is ruling, then you have a different situation. Are you ruling the mind? Then it's a different situation. So if you look at it this way, as a process, input comes in, recognition happens, analysis, evaluation happens, emotions and ego jump in. Then response is formulated and the action happens, right? I'll come back to this image again later. Now let's look at different situations. When Patanjali said restraining the vrittis is purpose of yoga, which of these is vrittis? The one in the center, emotions and ego, that the jumping mind creating different waves, is the vrittis, which need to be restrained. So in this whole thing, not everything is vritti. Vritti is this part. The emotions and egos which need to be restrained. If they were not there, if let's say this step was not there, this step was to go away, we were able to eliminate this, then what will happen? Input, recognition, analysis, response, action. Let's look at another situation. If this one overpowers this, what will happen? Your response will be emotional, skewed, one-sided. So many things will happen. Or it could be egoistic, so it will be self-centered. So if emotions and ego are uncontrolled, then the response will be. And if ego is in control, then it will be self-centered response. Whereas if it is, that part is missing, if intellect working throughout, then it's going to be balanced. It is going to be appropriate, including to respond or not to respond. Measure, including not non-response. So where it is necessary, it will not respond. And when it responds, it will respond at the right time appropriately. And it will analyze and understand properly because there is no distortion. The worst situation is from here, mind you, the mind that has taken the input. From here, mind jumps to this. Straight away reaction. Forget about analysis. Forget about formulation of response. No intellect. I see something. I get input. I recognize and I straight away react. That's called mindless reaction. We call it mindless, but it's actually intellectless. But I said mind word is used very commonly. So it is intellectless. You basically eliminated the role of intellect in between. And this happens with all of us all the time. So I'm just trying to analyze the different situations. So these are different situations that happen. Now what do we do? Now if we analyze these, problems are now only with the mind as such, not the whole mind, and the ego. Correct? Intellect is right. Memory is doing just a function of recognizing and giving you input. There is doing nothing else. So you need intellect to be the dominant force and not the mind. Right? So the problem remains only with mind and ego. That is what we need to focus on. So mind problem can be in three areas because mind receives the input. So there can be a problem in that, as we saw blurred vision. So the problem can be first in the input area. So mind is the one that receives input. Problem could be in the area of those emotions, thoughts, and ego in the process. Or problem can be in the action area. It doesn't listen to the intellect. It does it on its own. Intellect भले कुछ भी बोले मैं तो ये करूँगा. Because action is organized again by the mind. Because interacting with the sense organs and the action organs is done by the mind, not intellect. Intellect hands it over to mind again. Mind does the intellect. Mind says, no, I'm going to do what I feel like. Whatever the intellect may say. It happens with us so many times. My one part of my mind says, नहीं करना चाहिए. छोड़ यार, I will do. Like I'm sure, Mr. Sinha, mind every day tells me don't smoke. I smoke. So now it can. Now intellect can act in the subconscious. The trick lies in getting intellect into subconscious. Intellect can overpower mind, but you need to work on it.
It overpowers mind and takes.
No, you are talking about super intelligent.
That's the brain function.
That's a brain function. You're not talking about super intelligence. You're talking about the role of intellect in your mind, not the brain part, the mind part. That's why I distinguish between the brain and mind. Brain is an instrument, a tool that you're using, a hardware that you're using, but find in the mind, intellect. So intellect is the one that is appropriate, right, wisdom, that determines your wisdom, not your intelligence. Intelligence is different. Intellect is different. Here, intellect is the one that is in charge of wisdom, not intellect as such. When I say I have a sharp mind, I have a sharp brain actually, not a sharp mind. So problems can be in three areas: receiving input, processing, or action. If the problem is with ego, I said it will be self-centric, then I don't care about anybody else. I'm going to do what I want to. Then whatever my intellect may say, or whatever the religion may say, whatever spirituality may say, I'm going to do what I want. For the mind, what is the solution? Now let's look at the solution for the mind and solution for the ego. Problems are these two, mind and ego. And let's look at the solution. There is a text called Bhagavad Gita. You all heard Bhagavad Gita. It's a whole discourse. And in that there's chapter 6, which is a discourse by Krishna to Arjuna on Dhyana Yoga, meditation yoga. 6th chapter is Dhyana Yoga. After the whole chapter is over, Arjuna raises his hand. Question. All this is fine, but my mind is too hyperactive. So what help is this? All this. My mind is hyperactive. What do I do? So like I'm giving you a theory right now. But if my mind is hyperactive, it doesn't help me. I understood this fine, but my mind is still hyperactive. So Arjun raises the question, my mind is hyperactive. What is the solution? So Krishna says only two things can solve it. And what Krishna says has to be true. And that is what I have been practicing to, as I suppose part of it works. There's only two things that can be done, which is practice. No substitute for practice. And what he says, detachment. Practice and detachment are the only two answers to a hyper mind. So there is no substitute. Detachment we will come to in second part of the lecture, not today's lecture. So that's a slightly bigger subject. Practice, there is no substitute for it. There is no quick fix. ये lecture के बाहर जाओगे आपका mind शांत हो गया. There is no quick fix. You have to work on it hard, and only you can work. I can't work on it for you. Your spouse cannot work on it for you. Your parent cannot work on it for you. Puja they can do, not this you have to do yourself. And only if you practice will you benefit, otherwise you will not. What to practice we will talk about, but practice you have to do, and there is no substitute for it. And as I said, intellect can train the mind. So we have to now harness intellect. And as you were asking, intellect needs to take control of the subconscious mind. Conscious mind is very easy to control. But subconscious mind controlling is the difficult part. So that is what keeps going on its own without listening to anything. That is what needs to be controlled, both at the input stage as well as the action stage. Now, for training, first thing that you need to do is cut it off from external input, which means we have to focus on. If I keep getting inputs, then my half of my mind is there. That 150 bits, say, half the bits are outside. I need to focus in. So all 150 bits have to be focused inside. And till we reach there, which is state of no emotions or controlled emotions, let me put it this way. One needs to constantly watch the mental process. So you need to now watch that process that I put in the image there. You need to focus on watching that process and understand where can I intervene. Because that process is going on continuously all the time. You need to find where is the window where I can intervene. So now intervention is required if you want to take control of the intellect. Then at some point in time, you need to intervene. So you need to figure out where the intervention point is. Now for this ego, you have to develop a sense of what is called non-doership. इधर तो उसने किया, उसके भी मैं अपनी स्टैंप लगाने को तैयार हूँ. उसने नहीं किया, मैंने किया. But I know it is good, then I put my stamp on it. If it is not good, but anything and everything, you need to first develop an attitude of non-doership. मैंने नहीं किया, हुआ. Then only you are taking I out of it. Then what you also need to do is develop a mind of non-sufferership or enjoyership. Emotion से क्या होता है? The very basic emotion is what? Like, dislike. The very basic level emotion is like or dislike. Everything, first reaction will be, I like it, I don't like it. I like it, I don't like it. If I like it, then I'm enjoyer, I enjoy it. If I don't like it, I suffer, I'm a sufferer. Take out the enjoyership and sufferership in your mind. It's an attitude. If you take out doership and enjoyership and sufferership out of it, then you are not involved. I'm explaining to you the theory. It requires a lot of practice. But you need to understand that what is happening is that the moment you put that Aadhaar number on it, you are involving ego in it. And the moment you put your Aadhaar number on it, emotions are bound to come. Likes, dislikes are bound to come. Because they are your likes and dislikes. You take I out of it, then no likes and dislikes. So I likes and dislikes are attached to me. It's my I likes and dislikes. If I take me out of it, then no likes and dislikes. Then you're looking at objectively. Then you're doing it objectively. So the solution of to ego is train the mind to become an observer rather than doer or sufferer or enjoyer. Now let's go back to Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. What did you say? The seer is established on its natural state. So you need to become the seer and not the doer or the enjoyer or sufferer. You need to become the CCTV. What does CCTV do? Watch. Does it react? अच्छी चीज है, बुरी चीज है, सही हो रहा है, गलत हो रहा है. Just record. So that is what is required to be developed. That you need to be a observer rather than an actor or a enjoyer or sufferer. You are not the actor. You don't act. Action is happening, but you are not the actor. So Aadhaar card, उसका Aadhaar number डालना बंद करो. Here we are ready to put other number on everything, and that again is done by the subconscious. Subconscious mind automatically puts the identity on it. मैंने किया, मेरा है. For the mind, the answer lies in meditation. Whether it is Patanjali, whether it is Krishna, whether it is Buddha, says meditation is where the answer lies to the emotional part or the vritti part or the thought part of your mind. Ego, it's a mindset, it's an attitude, it's a state of mind that you need to develop. But when it comes to thought, it is meditation. Meditation needs to be practiced, and only then it can help you control your thought. Now, meditation has, although it's meditation we understand by the mental process, but there's an importance of body in it, because finally the mind is in the body. And that's why yoga talks first about asanas before meditation. Asanas is to help you develop a balanced body, which you can control the way you want to. Just as you control mind, you need to also control your body. If you take the example of, let's say there's a bowl and there's water in it. Our aim is to make the water still, because we don't want ripples, because we want to see the bottom, right? That was our objective. But if the bowl shakes, what happens? The water will get ripples. So you first need a steady body. So body has a role, although meditation is purely mental, but you need a stable body, a body which can be stable and inactive and steady. The second thing that is again not a part of meditation is breath. Now, how do you connect to the brain? How do you connect to the mind? The bridge, when I was doing the talk on pranayama, I explained to you that breath is the bridge between the body and the mind. The one that connects these two is the breath. Now, whenever, let's say, you have an emotion of anger, have you noticed what happens to your breath? Faster, shorter. When you're happy and peaceful, have you noticed your breath? Slow, steady, deep. Mind affects breath, breath affects mind. If you are agitated, take 10 deep breaths. Your mind starts coming down. The breath affects mind, mind affects breath. The breath is the bridge to the mind. That's why yoga talks about pranayama. So, two prerequisites are asanas and pranayama. We are not talking about that today. That is something that you need to. But those are important, and that's why they are earlier steps to meditation. It is important to meditate sitting down on a dedicated basis every day for some time. Now that sometimes can be relative, but it is important for that. If you meditation can also be done while doing anything else. For example, I'll give you very simple. Now you'll say, I need 1 hour of asanas, I need 1 hour of pranayama, and then I need 1 hour of meditation. Where is the time? I need to go to office. 9:01, and Manoj Pandey will mark you half day absent. So where are the 3 hours? So we need to then build things into each other. So pranayama, I'll give you a very practical, let's say, very practical way of doing it. All of you have some walk or some walk you do. Most of you, not all of you. When you're walking, you can build pranayama into walk. Depending on your capacity, lung capacity, 4 steps breathe in, 4 steps breathe out, or 5 steps, or 6 steps, or 3 steps. 4 steps breathe in, 4 steps hold, 4 steps breathe out, 4 steps hold. The pranayama technique that I taught you, there's a whole rhythm to it. So that you can build in your steps while you're walking. Then you build practical ways of. Now, what happens is with that, your connection with the breath is getting established. Breath then connects with the mind. So you can find practical ways of doing asanas and pranayams in your regular activity also. When you start thinking about it, you will be able to figure your own ways out of how to do it. Couple of things I'll suggest you look at. So that regular dedicated practice is important. And in that, what is important is sitting with a erect back. Why? So back, neck, and head has to be in straight line. You can sit where you can sit on a chair, you can sit on in Padmasana, you can sit whatever way, but your head, neck, and back need to be in straight line. Why? If you don't, I can guarantee you in 10 minutes of meditation, you would be drowsy. You either will doze off or you will drowsy. So to keep that drowsiness away, you need to maintain a steady, erect back. And that's important. So that's why the most effective is when you sit down without any support and with a straight back. Intermittent practice is also possible, apart from sitting down and doing this practice every day. Plus, it's possible to follow meditation throughout your day. And ultimately, that is the stage you need to reach, that all through the day, you are in a meditative state, irrespective of what you're doing. And that is when that original art competition thing will fructify, that your mind remains steady irrespective of what the situation is. Because when you only when you bring it into your daily life all the time, 24 hours of the day, it's possible to go there. It only requires practice, technique and practice. Now the meditation itself has 4 parts or 4 stages. First is called pratyahara, the second is dharana, then dhyan, and then samadhi. This is as the pattern, so heard about it. There's nothing but they are different stages of the same process. Pratyahara is the first stage when you sit in meditation and cut off your sensory functions completely. So no inputs coming in. You close your eyes. You cannot close your ears and nose, but then mentally you close them off. Sounds fall, but you don't pay attention to it. Smells keep coming, but you don't pay attention to it. There is a disconnect the mind from the sensory organ. That is what you need to do in pratyahara. So pratyahara is basically cutting off the input. So which itself is a practice. You're required to do that continuously. That you're cutting off and there are people in this practice, you will find this in the middle of chaos, you can completely cut off. You can completely cut off. Your mind is absolutely not connected with anything. Dharana is when you start concentrating. Now, meditation requires concentration. I remember a statement of Swami Vivekananda, and he was asked once in the US, and he said that the measure of differentiating between an ordinary person and a great person is the degree of concentration. The higher the degree of concentration, higher are the things that you can do. Greater are the things that you can do. So dharana, dhyan, and samadhi is about concentration, about improving your concentration. You would have seen it. Let's say if you are in a task and you're completely concentrated, the feeling that you have inside you and the result both are very good compared to when your concentration is not there. The satisfaction that you have as well as outcome, both are excellent. This is for concentration. So dharana is when you concentrate, but the concentration is intermittent and it's an effort. You're making effort to concentrate. The same thing when it becomes continuous and effortless is called dhyan. So it's only 2 stages of concentration. Dharana is a stage where the concentration is intermittent and you're still making an effort to concentrate. Same thing with practice can become effortless, continuous concentration. That is called dhyan. That's called meditation. Generally called meditation. Dhyan. Samadhi is when your concentration is of that level that you become one with the object of your concentration. So that is not something that we are interested in right now. That is for spiritual practices. We are not interested in samadhi. We are interested in dharana and dhyan. Pratyahara, dharana, and dhyan is what we are interested in because we are looking at controlling the mind. So now, saying that is fine. How do you do it? I sit for meditation. Mind goes everywhere. अमेरिका जाता है, मार्स पे जाता है, घर पे जाता है, ऑफिस में जाता है, कस्टमर के यहाँ जाता है, it goes everywhere. And like split second, doesn't require any time. How do I cut off? How do I concentrate? So there are practical tips that require that can help, and these are again classical tips, not my own. So today we will focus on practice one. Second set of practice we'll do next time. It's 17:40, so we have 20 minutes for the practice. As I said, pranayama is important, so you need to practice pranayama in whatever way you can. Even if you don't do asanas now, do pranayama. That is important. First thing you should follow, and this is something that you can do all the time, and you need to do it all the time. Whenever I am doing something, let's say I'm talking to you, half of my mind is somewhere, thinking about this, thinking about that. Half of my mind is here. Make a conscious effort all the time to bring your mind in what you're doing. It will keep going away. It will keep going away patiently. Mind is like a child. You need a lot of patience and perseverance with it. Mind is also like child another way. You give the child a task, an active child, you give him a task to do. So you start doing. The moment you close the eyes, you start doing something else. You open your eyes, again you'll come back to the task. Same in mind. The moment you become conscious that it has moved away, it'll come back. It'll come back by itself. The moment you wake up, let's say if I call you wake up, mind will come back. But you need to wake up constantly, all the time. So you need to be alert. The moment you moves away, become aware, it'll come back. Come aware, it'll come back. So this you must start practicing from now. That make a conscious effort to put your mind into whatever you're doing 100%. Whether you're eating, whether you're walking, whether you're talking, whether you're thinking, whether you're doing whatever. Put 100% of your mind there. If you keep going, bring it back. Keep going, bring it back. Keep going. It's a constant battle. But with practice, it'll become much better. If it becomes 100%, then you're great. But if it doesn't become 100%, but constantly you need to make this effort, then all the time, 24 hours of the day, all activities. Mundane activities, interesting activities, but bring your mind here. When you are watching a very interesting movie, what happens? Sitting on the edge of the chair, 100% focused. They know going here. So same way, whatever you're doing, put 100% in. And it's a conscious effort that you need to make. And you'll see a major difference arising in few months. So that is, people call it conscious living, alert living, living in the present, living in the moment. All these exotic names are given to it. So basically, it means you need to focus on whatever you're doing consciously. Subconsciously, it'll not happen. Subconsciously, mind will keep going here and there. Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. It'll constantly keep happening. Bring it back, and slowly it'll get trained to remain in what you're doing. So, and you will see when you're walking, you can feel every step. You can feel where you're putting it. It's graceful. It's like it's a firm step. It's not going haywire. All those things you'll start noticing. Practice Vikshana or Anapana is what you will practice now after I finish this. And also practice intermittently. So the technique that we will practice just now, I would want you to do that whenever you have free moments in your daily life. Let's say you're sitting in a car, the driver is driving, start practicing Vikshana or Anapana that I'm talking about. Or this is okay, you're just supposed to listen with attention. But if you're doing something, start focusing. If you're not doing something, do what I'm going to teach you, Vikshana or Anapana. So it's a technique that you need to practice in all your free moments. And even when you're walking, practice it. Well, you're doing pranayama, but mind is practicing this. So first is conscious living. Pranayama is one part, but first is conscious living is what you will start practicing today. And this Vikshana that we're going to see as a practice, you will do that at least once a day, half an hour, 1 hour, to whatever time. But what happens, I'll tell you, you need long enough time when you sit in it for the first few minutes, so your mind will be completely, you're constantly trying to pull it back, constantly trying to pull it back. Only after 15-20 minutes will it become a little quieter, and some amount of concentration will come. It will still be intermittent, but some amount. For the first 15 minutes, there is going to be in 2 seconds the mind will go. To reach 10-15 seconds also, you need at least half an hour of practice. So whatever time you can devote, but you must every day sit at least for some time. Doesn't matter if it's 20 minutes. Doesn't matter if it's 1 hour. More time, the better. More the time, better, the better. But apart from that, intermittent practice and conscious living. This is 3 things that you should practice from today onwards. And then about the control of the emotions, we will look at next time. That's where do we intervene in that process. Okay, so now let's practice for the next 15 minutes. We have 15 minutes with us. So as I said, the first thing is erect back, neck, and head in one line. So no support of the back. Leave the back of the chair. Leave the back of the chair. If you must take just the lower back and just touch the back, that's all. Otherwise, leave the back of the chair. Sit erect. You can sit down on the floor, etc. at home, whatever you want to, whichever you're comfortable with. So erect back, head, neck, and back in straight line. Right? Close your eyes. You can keep your hands the way you want to keep. No problem. The way you feel comfortable. Erect but comfortable. You should not be tense. If you're tense, then it will not work, because then your attention will be in your tension. Your mind will be there, not in what you want it to do. And it's a very simple technique that you want to do. And then I'll explain to you why you are doing this. You close your eyes and just start watching your breath. What do I say? You are watching your breath. You're not regulating it. You're not increasing the length, decreasing the length, doing this or the other. So what you want to do is just watch your breath, and at the same time also feel your breath in the nostrils, wherever. You don't want to feel it all over. You want to feel it at different times, different places. Feel the nostrils touch, feel the breath touch in the nostrils or on the mustache strip, above the upper lip, below the nose. So this area or the inside the nostrils, wherever it touches, just observe it. Why breath? It's with you all the time. You don't need to, don't need help or anything at all. Whenever you want to practice it, breath is there with you. Second, breath is something that will not in any way invoke any emotion. So the risk of getting involved in emotion is least in it, not zero, but least. Again, the mind will keep moving away. Bring it back. Again, mind will keep moving. Bring it back. Focus on your breath. One is observe it coming in, going out. Second is observe its touch, wherever it touches. Just do that, nothing else. So let's start now. Close your eyes, and as I said, try cut off your mind from your senses. Then only you'll be able to focus. So those essentials need to be followed definitely. If the breath is deep, it is deep. If it is shallow, it is shallow. It is regular, it is irregular. It is irregular, it is irregular. You are doing nothing about the breath. You're just observing the way it is. It's coming in, it's going out, it's touching somewhere, and you are just observing and doing nothing. The mind goes here, bring it back, mind goes there, bring it back. And just sit quietly. Okay, let's open our eyes. You sat in it for 8 minutes, and many of you moved multiple times. Couple of you opened your eyes to see क्या हो रहा है. मैं कर रहा हूँ कि बाकी लोग भी कर रहे हैं. The first thing that you will feel after you sit in this is itching. इधर खुजली होगी, उधर खुजली होगी, इधर खुजली होगी, इधर खुजली होगी. Mind playing tricks. It will try to take you away from what you're doing. Don't like this being put on leash. Or you don't move your feet, you're not comfortable, back. All this will happen. In 7-8 minutes that you practice, many of you move multiple times. As I said, body will feel uncomfortable. You do it long enough time, mind you'll even feel pain. But you have determined not to move. You decided not to move. क्या होगा? Are you going to, is the bone going to break? Are you going to land in hospital? No. Whatever happens. You just are focusing on breath. Nothing else. Your body is not non-existent. You are focusing on breath. So this is just the first time, but it will come with practice. Initially, 10 times you'll move. Sometimes I will get bored. Hey, what is this? Just looking at the breath. But the more let's say mundane it is, the better it is. But there's no emotion involved. Breath is no emotion involved. So on the contrary, you also may training your mind not to be emotional for that time, for that long. Some other practical things. Take off your spectacles. You don't need spectacles to watch your breath. So take off your spectacles. The lesser the bodily distractions, the better. Take off your spectacles, you don't need them. Take off your mask when you're doing this. When you sit down, try and sit with both feet firmly on the ground. If you sit with this or this, then sooner or later you will start readjusting. Sooner or later you will start readjusting. So sit with your feet firmly on the ground, comfortable, not pressed hard, but comfortable, and relax. Initially it will happen. Multiple times you feel tempted to move, you will also move, but become conscious that I moved. Fine. Nothing to be disappointed, nothing to be angry with yourself about, but just make a note that you moved. So slowly you'll train yourself not to move, not to attend to itching and pain and this and the other. Mind will try to distract you from it. Mind doesn't like you doing this because you're putting mind in a box that you got to look on your breath and nothing else. You're doing nothing else. And then like it. So it will create a lot of tricks. But this is the first basic step of what are you trying to do? Train the mind to do what you want it to do. Constantly it is making you do what it wants to do. Now you're trying to train the mind to do what you want it to do. And breath is helping you keep emotions away because there's no emotion involved. That's what breath is concerned. There's nothing about liking it or disliking it. Breath is not going to feel I like it or I dislike it. So both things are achieving. Plus it is with you all the time. So as I said, now when you're sitting in a car, driver is driving, or you're sitting and watching TV. When you're watching TV, you can take the conscious living part out of it and start paying attention to yourself. Try to connect more with your body. So in conscious living, also the conscious living part that I talked about, try to connect more with your body. Be conscious of your body all the time. What are you doing? What is the body doing? What are you feeling? What is happening? So as I said, 4 things: pranayam, as much as you can do. Conscious living. Be conscious about whatever you're doing at any time and time. Just practice sitting down every day for whatever time you can do, morning, evening, whenever. Regular practice, regular time is always better. And intermittent, whenever you find the gap, whenever you find time. Like, even while you're listening to me, you could still be just observing that. Mind is here, but you're just observing. So for the timing, this much. Now next 15 days, I want you all to practice all 4. Pranayam, some sort of pranayam, conscious living, that is being conscious of whatever you're doing. Just regular practice and intermittent practice. 15 days later, we'll meet again, and that time we will see how to intervene in that mental process to keep emotions away in your regular activity. Not just this. It also requires practice, but we'll see that technique. Fine. Thank you all for patiently listening to me. Now you are free to collect your knowledge back from there and dump whatever you learned into that garbage bin.